Two wonderful guests coming into studio here. Dick Taylor, Wendy Smith. Good morning to you both. How you guys doing?
Super.
Good to see you guys in here. Did you have a good holiday, Dick?
It was great.
Good.
It was great.
And I'm sure it was a nice holiday, too, at the port. No, I'm just
kidding. We talked last week.
Okay. On those things. So what have you guys been up to? What are we looking at here for the new year and things like that?
Well, we had our first commission meeting of the year yesterday afternoon. And a couple things happened at that. The biggest thing, I think, was we renewed the lease for Shear Brothers up on Johns Prairie for 5 years, another 5 years. And what's interesting about them is, they're a chip company. Mm-hmm. They've been there 18 years. And, I think they're our longest tenant on the port.
Wow, that's awesome.
Or one of the longest. At least one of the longest tenants on the port. So we're glad to have them, renew, and glad to keep them going. The other thing that we did is we had our election officers for our own commission, and we stayed the same. Commissioner Buck's going to be the vice chair, Commissioner Patterson's going to be the treasurer, and I'm going to be the chair.
Okay.
So, and then there's some other duties that we have. Commissioner Buck goes to the EDC. I go to the PRTPO, the Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization.
Yep.
See, I can say that.
Good job.
That's a mouthful right
So,
there.
yeah, we kept that going. And then one of the other things we discussed is that we want to have a retreat sometime probably early February.
Okay.
And we do that annually, but it's even more important this year. We've got some, and I hate to use the word visioning because everybody does.
Sure.
But we want to look at some visioning for long range, where we want to go in 20 years, kind of thing. With there'll be interim things in the process. But so we've got to start looking at that.
Are those normal conversations that folks have every so often?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think in the port world, there's kind of there's different ways of doing business, and you kind of always want to look, and what I mean by that is ports are definitely lessors of property and property managers, but there's ports out there that buy and sell property. They look for acquiring new property without selling. There's different. Some ports only want land leases, no buildings involved, and so there's just different ways of looking at it. And I think it's time to kind of really examine what
where
we want to
are,
be and where we want to grow up, and
Are there any specific ports that you guys talk with that you say, I like, not overall what they do, but key specific things? Like I'm sure a lot of other ports would say, man, we need to get on the radio. Do you guys
they all
look
say
at other
that.
ports
Yeah,
and
they all say
say,
that, yeah.
What do we like from what these folks are doing?
We do, actually.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
we see that a lot, and actually I think whenever we go to the big public ports conferences and we meet with ports all over the state, boy, we all want to be like in the wine country and set up,
Right, that's where I want to be.
incubator wineries, like Walla Walla. But I think there's definitely, there's ports that have 50-year-long leases with DNR lands just because they're right on the river and DNR needs there's, and so it's like you just look at that, or they're growing like crazy. Port of Benton, we all walk away going, we want to be the Port of Benton. They're just growing leaps and bounds, so I think you always kind of have a little bit of, I don't know, port envy.
And they're after us too.
Yeah.
But the radio program's one of them. The other was the I think we were the first, or one of the first, to do the cannabis operation. Certainly the first to do it on an airport.
Yeah.
And so they were very, very interested in that and how that's going. And of course, if you look at the industry today, it's grown considerably throughout the state.
It has.
And creates, I don't know, millions in revenue for
Lots
the state.
of
So they're,
jobs, too.
jobs.
So
So
great.
I
they're,
just heard a fun fact from somebody, I think last week, that said that, a year ago, so in December of last year, the cannabis sales surpassed spirits.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just recently, they've surpassed nicotine sales.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's what somebody
That's
told
big.
me. Now, I haven't verified or anything, but I thought,
Man.
oh my gosh, you start to think about that.
You heard it on the internet, right? So it's got to be.
No, I didn't hear it.
No.
Somebody told me that.
Must
and
be
it was-
true.
Yeah, who knows? But that's pretty. If you even think it's even close.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah, that's
huge.
amazing.
Because I thought it was big with spirits. I thought, wow, that's really quick. A quick growth.
It is
so.
quick.
And people not drinking so much now.
So are you guys unique? I mean, I know there are ports that have cannabis grow operations, but in the fact that it's on the airport property, and that may have added a level wrinkle with the FAA. I mean, how many ports do you get a sense of that have these types of operations across the state?
There's a lot that have the cannabis.
Yeah, lots that have the grows.
I'm not totally sure how many have
On the airport, I'm not
federal
sure.
property.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure at all, but there's ports that actually were just hanging on by shoestrings. Portowalla Bay Harbor is one of them. They were about to go under. Their main company, closed their doors, and they were, we aren't going to survive, and the cannabis industry brought them back to life. So it's a pretty big deal, and they've brought jobs, and they've brought, just people into the communities. And I think it was an industry that came in that was, everybody kind of questioned,
yeah.
what
Well,
do we do
nobody
this? Do
wanted
we
to
not?
Look at it.
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
10-foot pole.
Right. But,
yeah.
it sure saved, a lot of jobs in that area as well as here. I mean, we had, half empty building, we're chock full, as you know, and I think that is a huge part of this industry, that they came in and took some really old buildings that, were going to be tough to lease
use, yeah.
and
Yeah.
tough to use, and really have made them into something spectacular.
And those operations really had to make major investments.
Oh,
make
yes.
Oh, yeah,
state
millions.
regulations with the cameras
Oh,
and
yes.
the tracking
Yes.
and the rooms and the vents and
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we only had 2 on port property that renovated, existing buildings. The others just leased land, and they built their own buildings on port property, which all of our leases state that at the end of their lease term, when they go away, those buildings become port
Become
property.
ours, yeah.
So, I mean, it's win-win. They have really, inexpensive land leases, for what they've got, yet we still earn, gain a building in the end. So it's pretty good.
Are there any outdoor growing operations, or are they all indoors on port property?
Right now they're all indoors, and we have a pretty stringent thought on that. We don't want a lot of, outdoor greenhouse looking, so we've kind of put it off. We've said we'd entertain if they had specific plans, but we wanted specific, and Brandon drew up some what do you call it? Criteria that they would have to meet to be able to do that. But so far, I think one was interested. They never went forward yet. So we'll see if that transpires. But
so if it's outdoor, it's still in a greenhouse. I just assumed that it would look kind of like wine country, where there'd just be rows and rows.
I think with our climate, they have to have some.
Yeah, they have to probably have
Indoor.
lights.
You gotta have
Yeah.
Heat.
So
We don't have enough
Yeah.
sunlight.
Nowadays.
Maybe they could do it all outdoor, but I think
Okay.
typically
There,
they
in the
have.
county, there are a couple outdoor grows that are big. One I think is off, I don't know, south of town.
Yeah.
And they have, as I recall seeing pictures of it, they have kind of like a canopy.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I mean, the
Yeah.
overabundance of rain
Yeah.
probably is not helpful at all.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good information from the port, and I know that you guys are working hard on as well, looking at maybe bringing in some good aviation-related business, kind of at the old fairgrounds area, real close to the airport there, and so always on the horizon for those.
Oh, yeah.
Yep,
And we're looking
yep.
forward to working with Hall Equity
Yeah.
Yeah.
on that property.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of meetings with them.
Yeah, it seems like there's some little bit more movement as we're
Yeah.
reading the websites and hearing some scuttlebutt around town that the DOT's out surveying, and they're continuing their grading and things like that. So
Yeah. Hopefully.
that could be nice, very sure.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, anything else you'd like to pass along before we let you out of here?
Happy New Year.
Happy
Yeah.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Glad you're back home. Nice
Glad
to
to
see
be
you.
back.
Not breaking any glass anywhere.
Yeah.
It's 8:50 and we surface on out of here. Thanks, guys, and let's get a sports report from ABC.